these days are an expensive endeavor, thanks in no small part to Microsoft. Yeah, according to legend, for a brief moment, Microsoft actually implemented a no arcade ports rule as a quality control method for Xbox Live Arcade. No arcade ports on Xbox Live Arcade. I'll let the stupidity of that sink in for a minute. However, making things even stupider, this quality control standard was not enforced on boxed releases. So some shoot-'em-up developers decided to take things that were going to be Xbox Live Arcade games and release them as full-priced boxed releases. Of course, it seems that Microsoft later took back this rule or bent it quite a bit, but by this point the damage had already been done. Shoot-'em-up developers realized that their fan base was incredibly devoted and would gladly pay $60 for arcade ports of 2D shooters. Well, at least the shoot-'em-up developers recognized that there were hardcore fans in America as well, and as such, shoot-'em-ups are some of the only games you'll see that are region-free on Xbox 360, though that hardly takes the bite off the fact that importing a game these days will run you about $80. Yeah. So it's nice to actually see a high-quality shoot-'em-up released as a download on Xbox Live Arcade for a measly $10, such is the case with Trouble Witches Neo. Trouble Witches originally began as a doujin game on PC created by Studio Siesta, which became somewhat infamous as one of its creators openly mocked the Toho series, calling them garbage. Well, it seems they put their money where their mouth was with Trouble Witches, and the game actually got picked up by a publisher and was enhanced and retooled for an arcade release titled Trouble Witches AC, which added 2 more characters to the roster. This arcade release was then picked up by SNK Playmore, who then further enhanced it as they ported it to Xbox Live Arcade as Trouble Witches Neo, adding another character and then a 9th character as DLC. Now, from the moment you start this sucker up, you can tell this is a high-quality product. The game looks phenomenal. Brightly colored, high-res 2D artwork, blended with some minor 3D polygonal elements, makes this a just joy to look at. This is a fantastic-looking game. It actually looks better than a lot of full-priced boxed shoot-'em-up releases these days. At the start of the game, you have a choice of 6 different characters with 2 more unlockable later on, each and every one of them having their own fully voice-acted story mode with both English and Japanese voices for, and I quote, twice the fun, though anyone with 2 brain cells will probably switch the voices to Japanese as the English dub is phenomenally bad, although fans of bad dubs will probably get a kick out of this.
When I'll become a cute little witch that goes bad and warm on bad guys. That's my dream.
Don't get down on yourself. Your machine was really awesome. And you're really awesome for being able to build something like that.
Good Lord, is English even your first language?
I'm just a nobody with no special talents.
The game also allows you to play a straight arcade port, as well as an arcade mode that allows for 2-player simultaneous co-op. There's also 3 different difficulty levels to choose from, with higher difficulties including more enemies and more bullets on screen. And also a time attack and boss rush mode, and the ability to save replays and even upload them to the high scoreboard. And perhaps most surprisingly of all, 2-player co-op through Xbox Live, which works shockingly well with absolutely no lag. Even on my terrible connection, I was able to connect with a random person in Japan and play 2-player co-op without issue. Now, as you can see, the game is a side-scrolling shoot-'em-up of the bullet hell variety. However, you don't get to diss Toho without having something up your sleeve. And indeed, the makers of Trouble Witches did have something up their sleeves. The primary gimmick of Trouble Witches is the magic barrier system. You can press X to put up a magic barrier, which slows any bullets that go within it. However, it quickly drains your mana, and once your mana is depleted, the barrier goes away. Or you can press X to make the barrier go away yourself. The twist is, if you destroy the enemy that originally fired the bullets themselves turn into gold that you can collect for points as well as spend at the pumpkin shop for power-ups. However, if the enemy that fired the bullet leaves the screen, then when the magic barrier goes away, it turns into a homing bullet that chases you for a bit. So there's definitely a bit of a risk-reward element to the game. As I I mentioned earlier, there's a pumpkin shop where you can buy power-ups. Pressing B allows you to use your power-up for a limited amount of time. Also, using a power-up clears away nearby bullets, allowing you to get out of a sticky situation, and allows you to take one extra hit, which would knock the power-up out of you, but you wouldn't get killed. Nice! There is one last element that I find very interesting. You see, in many shoot-em-ups these days, you just tend to hold down the fire button and dodge bullets, barely even paying attention to what you're shooting at. Here, though, they made shooting a much more active endeavor. You see, if you hold down the fire button, yeah, you get rapid fire, and even a little star fades in, showing you where your tiny-ass hitbox is, as most bullet hell shooters have very small, practically one-pixel hitboxes. However, as long as the fire button is held down, gold simply falls to the ground. But if you release the fire button, all the on-screen gold will be sucked into you. So you actually have to pay attention to when you are and aren't firing. It's a nice twist, and I really like it. The game is 6 stages long, and the stages are fantastically well designed, and I greatly enjoy them. I find this to be a very well-made and well-polished shoot-em-up, and I can't help but be impressed by all of it. However, it does have one flaw. It is not alone in having this flaw. But I think this really needs to be said to all shoot-em-up developers. If you do not have a standardized way to shoot behind you, then having enemies that come from behind is fucking bullshit. This only happens twice throughout the entirety of Trouble Witches, but both times it's bullshit. Look at this. The enemies even track you, and it's not just a couple enemies. It's not like you can just swing around and hit them from behind. No, this is a fucking stream of enemies that home in on you and fire at you while enemies are fired from the front. How the fuck am I supposed to deal with this? Well, there is a way to deal with this. You go to the shop and you buy the tail power-up, which allows you to shoot behind you. However, that has to be the very next power-up on your list. You cannot select which power-up you want to use. You use them in order. And you have to wait for your previous power-up to run out before you can use the next one. So unless you have this completely anticipated, there is no way to deal with this. Interestingly, this wasn't as much of a problem in the original PC release. You still needed to buy the tail card, and that's still kind of bullshit, but they actually had a switch power-ups button, which will allow you to buy a tail power-up and then save it for later, then use it when you need it. Unfortunately, that was apparently removed for the arcade release, probably due to a lack of buttons, and was not added back in for the 360 release. This makes up the game's single biggest flaw. Aside from this, the game is phenomenally well-made, incredibly polished, and honestly impressed me more than most full-price boxed shoot-em-up releases. I know some hardcore shooter fanatics call the game pathetically easy, and I think they're on drugs, but whatever. Still, at this price, for only 10 bucks? Yeah! And for such a high-quality shooter, it's really hard to deny Trouble Witches Neo. I am blown away by this game. I absolutely love it. 4 out of 5. I definitely recommend this sucker. Anyway, this is Gel, and you've been GameBabbled. See ya.